Welcome, everybody, live in the Nexon Arena. We are about to get into the round 4 finals here. It is going to be the Telecom Wars once again. SK Telecom T1 versus KT Rolster. Are you guys hyped?
I am so hyped, Valdez. Look at the crowd. Now, this is just simply one floor. There's a second floor nearly filled up as well. And no doubt, the longer this match goes on, more people will be filling in as well.
Great to be here. We're going to be going straight to the stage for an announcement.
An award for innovation. He's getting his 100th win in Pro League, or he has gotten it this season, I suppose, so he will be awarded.
He will. 100 wins. Very prestigious award. Very few people in Pro League history have actually earned such an award. And every time, this does happen, we usually have somewhat of a ceremony for it, because winning 100 times in this league is obviously quite a feat. I mean, you think about how many wins you played, on the ladder maybe in your whole career. Imagine winning 100 times in this prestigious league on this stage.
Well, think about the most winning players. They both got 21 wins for this season, which was over the course of 1 year.
Yeah. So is Innovation one of the few, or the only player to get 100 wins? Because, I mean, when you look at it, someone like Zest, who gets played so much, should probably have that as well.
Some other players have earned it. Notably last year, Sulky. I remember he earned it last year. This includes Brood War stats as well. So
really?
That's something to keep in mind.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense.
So you got guys like Flash as well, up at like 280 something wins. Do
they get? I wonder if they get an award every century. Every 100 they get.
Yeah.
There is a 200 win club, but it seems like we're getting really started. I hear that Pro League music. You know it means it's time.
We're back. I was wondering why we were having that fancy music, but I guess that was made very clear to us. Innovation, congratulations. But again, we are going to get into this Telecom Wars. It's going to be a best of 7 maps here, possibly.
Yeah, that's right. It should be a lot of fun. Mostly more for pride than I guess anything else. The end result, especially for SKT, won't mean too much. They've dominated so much this year that they've made it well into the grand playoffs in flying colors.
Yeah. Now, for this match, I feel like it's really just about who is the best team in the world at this moment. Let's prove it. There's money on the line, yes. There's points on the line, which are essentially meaningless for these two teams. But at the bottom of the line, who is the best team in the world at this moment in time? We're going to find out today.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying SKT. They've definitely got the most stacked lineup, the most choices coming into this, all-kill format. They could essentially send, one of 6 or 7 players even.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because they start with Billowy. So they have all the options in the world, the most powerful players, but they are taking a chance with one of their lesser-known Protoss players, Billowy, to start things out against Stats.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about this. Are they trolling? Are they trying to basically say we are the best, we're going to use one of our players we barely used this season? Or they just have a really good plan? It's really up in the air. Nobody really knows.
Keep in mind, Billowy was the guy, I believe he was on MVP, that all-killed KT once before.
Yes.
So maybe that's also what they're trying to go for here, saying, hey, we're going to send out this guy. Hopefully he can get an all-kill again and embarrass you guys, essentially.
There's a lot of strategies to this. I mean, we'll get further into the map pool and stuff, which is going to tell a big story of how these players play out and who's going to come from where. But it's interesting that we did see 2 Protosses come out first.
Yeah, for sure. Billowy, a player who's known for his Protoss and his timing attacks, and also known for playing the same build game after game, which can oftentimes throw opponents off, even using builds twice in a row that would be good on the first map, but they're terrible on the second map, but doing it anyways and really throwing opponents off, just keeping them guessing. Here's Life. The player will likely see today going into those potentially second and third maps, depending on what happens here for KT. Shot of the coaches now. A tense moment here. This is a very traditional match between these two SK and KT teams.
Yeah. Talking about Life a bit, it was interesting you mentioned him, because the second map is Iron Fortress. We've seen him come out on that map many times versus Protosses and Terrans alike. Protosses usually don't really like to come out on that map. We have 2 to start, Billowy and Stats, so maybe a nice pick to go ahead and take one of those guys out and get some nice momentum into the third map, which is Cactus Valley, another great Life map.
That's really the story right there. It's like whoever loses, I'm pretty sure they're going to be replaced by a Zerg player going into the next match.
Yeah, most likely. Iron Fortress, a map that has a bit of a tougher time taking a third base. I think it's not impossible to send a Protoss onto Iron Fortress, but I don't think you want to send a Protoss against either Billowy or Stats anyways, and sending a Terran out just doesn't make sense to me either.
I mean, it's still possible for a Terran on Iron Fortress, but I feel like we're going to see Dark if Billowy loses. We're going to see Life if Stats loses. So it's really going to come down to, I think, a heavy Zerg presence in the second map.
You guys got to look at the maps there, but now going into these teams' records in terms of 4-0s, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, very impressive for both sides.
I just want to point out that KT Rolster has won 20 times in a 4-3 score, so they have gone the distance many times. Also to note that SK Telecom was very few all kills, only 3 compared to KT Rolster's 6. So just something else to keep in mind, you know, SKT in this format sometimes does not shine as well.
Do you really think in KT's current state that they can actually get a 4-0? Like, I try to think of a player who really stands out that could possibly do it, and
TY, man.
TY is the only one. TY is the only player that could possibly 4-0 in this team right now.
The only player who could possibly, 4-0 today is going to be Stats, right? And I don't imagine him doing it either. I feel like the reason why KT has much better all-kill wins than SK is SK often wins off the fact that their lineup has so much depth. Whereas, you know, say you're playing against CJ Entis and Hero comes out, well, he can only be used once in the regular format, but in all-kill, he could all-kill your team and he just carry the team. Biel could all-kill your team and carry the team, so I feel like SK's depth sometimes doesn't always get shown as much.
Taking a look, we saw the players' ratios in terms of how many kills they've gotten in the past. Innovation has got 3 all-kills, by the way. And also here in Pro League matches versus KT Rolster, 16-6. He's definitely the big guy on SKT to make a difference in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. But you look at every other player as well. Su, Classic, and Dark specifically. They're the ones that get the points, and they're some of the best players in the world right now.
All right, so just taking a look at this is kind of our inferiority-superiority chart that we had last time. It's a bit less confusing this time, but it just goes to show the weighted wins for these two players, Innovation and Zest being the most important, the key players for the team. Because even though the rest of the players on the other side are the players that have basically the most wins for their opponents, you can see that Zest has a positive record against all 4 of those players. Yeah. Innovation has a positive record against all 4 of those key players. So these players have positive records against every player of their opponent's team, and so therefore the most important players for each team.
Interesting.
Well, going into our viewpoints here, first round finals this season with the Telecom Wars, SKT versus KT. Will Dream come out after a long break? Zest and Stats all killed SKT, and Billowy all killed KT.
Well, it's interesting, the Dream question, because we are starting with Billowy. That kind of gives us an impression that maybe SKT aren't sending out their A game. They're not showing all their depth in this match because it's more of a show match than really means anything else beyond that. Sure, it'd be great to win it, but maybe we will see Dream simply because of that fact alone.
That's a good point. I mean, you know, Dream has definitely been in a bit of a slump, especially in the TVP matchup, I would say, looking very weak in his Star League group, also dropping out very early on in the GSL in a TVT match versus Hack. But I have to think that SKT will not field him today. I think that they are going to take this match very seriously, especially when I saw a shot of Uve's face earlier. This is just one of those matches where it's all about pride, and so you take the money, you put it away, you take the points, it doesn't matter because they're already secured a spot in the grand finals. I just feel like this is so important for both these teams to prove that right now they are the best team for their sponsor and for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what the Telecom Wars are all about, right? They come in here, it's a very traditional matchup. It's happened over the course of, 10 years now. It's quite impressive, and that is the excitement that we get coming into this one. Of course, we have some events if you are down at the studio. This is in Korean, so won't really matter for you guys anyway.
Well, soon we'll be getting this match started. I really can't wait to see how this PvP is going to unfold and what Billowy has planned. Like,
I was going to ask you just really quick, what's you guys' predictions before we get into this map?
I'm going to go with Stats here. We haven't seen Billowy in so long. I mean, his PvP is definitely, one of his stronger matchups, but I feel like Stats is coming, he's like on the up and up out of that slump that he had, and now he's, looking a lot better these days.
I think we're going to see Stats win this one, and we're going to see Dark come out and maybe even all kill, or at least get 3.
I actually think Billowy is going to win the first game. I remember his games that we saw from him on MVP. His PvP is great. He's a really strong player. He's played 2 times this season, both times Protoss versus Protoss. He lost both of them, but there's no way that Uve would send him out in this moment if he didn't have the utmost confidence that he can win a PvP and I stand by his choice. I'm going to actually have to trust him on this one. Stat's a good all-around player, but not the master of PvP, and I just feel like there's not a lot of information to study of Billowy as well.
Not much, but I mean, there's a reason because of that, because he loses in like the early rounds of every Star League, every GSL. He loses in every qualifier he's actually tried to qualify for. It's kind of amazing. He's one of these players that just looks like they're in a hard slump. So I'm very interested to see how it turns out.
Maybe he's been preparing for this match for over 2 rounds. I'm not exactly sure. But
I hope so.
I do agree with Wolf in the fact that they wouldn't send him out here unless they thought he had a decent chance to win. Like,
sure.
Even if they were just saying, hey, you know, we're already in first. We've already secured it. We're just going to fool around. Even then, they wouldn't want to embarrass the player or their team. So this is definitely like a real pick here.
Yeah.
For sure.
This is not the time where you go, well, let's give a player a little bit more experience, hasn't played in a while. This is not that moment. This is the Telecom Wars. This is the round 4 finals.
Looks like we're almost getting ready here to start our first game, this PvP on Coda.
Well, any second now. Both players looking pretty focused. Billowy really is the one that has to prove it here today.
But a lot of fans here for Stats as well. Let's get into game number 1 now on Coda. Up here in the top left in the red from SK Telecom T1, a Protoss player, he is Billowy.
All right.
They would make play that would make my heart beat fast. Down to the bottom right in blue, Stats for KT Rolster.
Oh, she's got a crush.
Will Stats be the X factor in this game, guys?
8-gate for Billowy. Or rather, 8 pylon, excuse me. It could lead into an 8-gate. In fact, it will.
Super aggressive.
But in the main base, not going to be a proxy, but this means certainly a super fast tech, perhaps even to like DTs or an insanely fast Stargate.
Yeah, we'll see what he actually has planned, but no doubt he really wants to put on the pressure early. Some sort of snipe build designed for Stats, no doubt.
I mean, this is kind of what we were expecting, right? I mean, this guy isn't going to come out here and just play straight up standard game against Stats, especially when we haven't seen him in so long.
Yeah,
this is what he did last time as well.
Really wouldn't expect it. Considering his recent results in everything, like he really has to try something that's pretty gimmicky, unique, something that's going to completely catch Stats out. And they've had a lot of time to kind of study Stats. Was one of the big players for KT as well.
That's one of the reasons why I favor Billowy going to this, because there's so much more out there for him to study. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in his wins that he took the all kill, for example, versus KT Rolster, he won a lot of PvPs, including versus Zest, where Zest tried to proxy him after he did 2 games before a 3-gate Stalker, warp and rush. And with a fast Cyber Core like this and all the Chrono Boost energy he's got left on his Nexus, I think we're going to see exactly that. I think he's actually going to do another Warp Gate attack.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. It's all going to be about Stats trying to identify what's happening. He's great at defensive play here, but he's really got to see it coming, especially in a PvP.
My life for Karen V. That's pretty sweet.
Yep.
There's also a guy in there cheering for Stats and saying that he was going to go to the military, something we see quite often.
So let's take a look at these Cybernetics core timings. Look at the energy on the Nexus as well. Boom, insta-chrono. This is going to be a Warp Gate rush. Stats will scout, though. The question is, will he be able to identify this? Because by the time he gets to the core's already going to finish, and there's no way to physically tell with your eyes that the chrono is ahead.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to scouting how many probes there are, how much energy is on that Nexus, and if that Cybercore is getting chronoed out. But before that, Stalker's going to be at the ramp.
Exactly. So this is going to be very difficult for him to actually identify.
Very crisp timings here.
Maybe he'll say, that Stalker's really early.
You know what? This is actually going to get scouted, I think. Oh my god, he turned around.
It might just give enough just having the Stalker out this early on there. You know, that's such an early Stalker. It doesn't get earlier than that. I think Stats is probably, the alarm bells have gone off in his head, and he's like, okay, hang on a second. That was a little too quick.
He's chrono boosting out the Mothership Core right now, and it is rallied towards his natural, so I think he knows something is up here, and he wants to go down and scout the bottom of his ramp because he needs to clear out that pylon. His first step.
Yep, second pylon coming up. He definitely knows what's up now. Now he's got a few choices. He could try to get a sentry out to block the ramp, but it's going to take a long time. He'd have to cancel that Stalker. Second Stalker is on the way. The Mothership Core is being targeted here already by Billowy. He's actually just going to tank some of those Stalker shots to weaken the Mothership Core as much as possible. Warp Gate Research is seconds away from completing, and Stats needs more gateways.
Stats can't let his Stalker out too far.
Oh my god.
Oh man, he has no idea there's another pylon.
He's going to be completely outnumbered here for so long.
And
then
this
Stalker might get caught out.
If it gets caught out, I think that might just be game.
Oh. It's going to be now 4 versus 2, and he's just going to go ahead and fight it. And this does not tip Stats off. Here they come up the ramp.
Up the ramp, and the probe is still alive. Going to put down a pylon in the main now.
87 energy.
Yeah, he needs 10 more seconds, and he can be able to defend this at least for a little while until those gateways are finished up.
He's actually going to go for the Stalkers instead to keep his Stalker count high.
Cannot lose that Mothership Core.
Getting pretty low here. A couple more shots will do it. He's going to focus it
Oh
down.
my god, he gets it at 99 energy, and here's the next warp in.
Oh, and he's going to even warp in a Zealot here to deal with the probes in the front at the same time. Stats, he's got a lot of minerals here and gas built up, but he's only now getting his warp gates.
Oh man, look at that. Another Stalker gets targeted down. Zealot doing way too much damage here. The probe count is now even. Here's the first warp in, but it's in range of those Stalkers. He takes a ton of extra damage. And down they go one by one. These Stalkers now down to 13 probes. And this should be the nail in the coffin, this last warp in here.
Well, he's got his Mothership Core out now, but he does have the worker lead and the army lead at this point.
Yeah, this is really a hopeless situation from this point onwards. He's just not going to have enough energy. That Mothership Core really could not die in this kind of situation, and it did. There it goes again.
Down it goes, and down goes Stats. In-gamer 1, Billowy will take the lead. Look at his targeting as well on these Stalkers to make sure he wins this fight no matter what.
Yeah, well, all the probes have died.
Surrounded here. More warp-ins coming in.
This has a hit point lead even as well at this point.
Nothing really matters, I mean, because simply too many workers have gone down at this point. It's just about cleaning up what's left over and keep warping in those Stalkers.
All right, well, that's going to be it. Look at Stats' face.
Yep.
Size, he knows it's over.
GG. That's going to be game number 1 here to Billowy and SK Telecom. Really nice snipe build coming out.
Yeah, that's an ugly start for KT. That is actually the last thing they needed. They really needed to go deep with Stats, one of their best performing players right now. Not good at all.
I was making a joke about Billowy preparing for over 2 rounds for this one moment, but it's kind of true in a sense. You know, this is the first time he's come out in a big way in Pro League, and he does his job. You know, he's been training in that SKT house for a very long time, and you know, at least he was able to get the win here.
I have to say I give more credit to Billowy than I can criticize Stats here. His Mothership control was not terrible, but he definitely stayed around with it too long. He was being a bit too liberal with it. The other thing to notice is warp-ins were just terrible. They should never warp in within Stalker range. Should have warped in behind the probe line. He would have probably lost either way. They would definitely had a better chance, but then with 3 Stalkers warping in late somewhere safe, then 1.5 of those 3 Stalkers being killed before they can even do anything because they're actually warping in underneath Stalker fire.
Yeah, it really just all came down to losing that Mothership Core at the most crucial time, like literally 1 energy away from photon overcharge, which buys him time to warp in all the Stalkers he needs to defend against it. Kind of a huge blunder there. That was really the game-losing sort of micro mistake, but still a great sniper build from Billowy. Huge all-in though, so you didn't really get to see how good Billowy is. He executed a nice cheese.
Yeah, I think this next match coming up is the big tell to see exactly where Billowy